This was me, Red Planet, coming to you once again with another video. No rights to the video or music, strictly for educational purposes only. Let's listen to Woodward TV talk about their underground tunnels. See what he had to say, Israel.
Secret underground bases, or cities. As I start to get into a series of topics for this month, if the government knew that a series of meteor storms were approaching and began taking secret measures to move underground, several clues might surface. Even though these measures would likely be hidden from the public to prevent panic, some indicators could be revealed if we pay attention. But let's say the government is aware of some impending meteor storm, and the most anyone can do is hide from it and perhaps prepare the best way they can with what they have or what they can get. Now, if this were to happen, we might see several signs of this scenario unfolding right in front of us. We would probably witness unusual construction projects over a series of a few years, military and security activities around these projects. There would be a major and massive stockpiling of resources, which might make resources for you and I scarce for a period of time, which happened in a way during the pandemic. So that happened already as far as we know. But we would see government policy changes, which has been occurring. That's always occurring anyway. The underground facilities that people do know about, trust me, they won't let those places go to waste. You may see activity around known underground bunkers. They could be making upgrades, installations, repairs, renovations. They could be stocking them up. We would see scientific and technological.
We all know why they're doing this, Israel. And it's only because they're trying to avoid what's getting ready to take place. They're trying to avoid what's getting ready to happen. Either it's going to be a massive earthquake, a bad tsunami worldwide, volcano eruption, or civil war, or war. Whatever the case may be, Israel, they're getting ready for something. This is why they're trying to avoid what's getting ready to happen, so what we go through, they don't have to face it. And we all know, Israel, that that's not finna happen, because whatever we go through, whatever we have to experience, they're going to experience it as well. The underground bunkers and underground caves and underground civilizations that they have underground, it's not going to save them from the fallen angels. It's not going to save them for the Creator's angels that's going to come. It's not going to save them.
Logical developments that would aid people in their life in these facilities. Media and public disinformation would continue. They would lie to us enough for us to be...
Because we all know that the fallen angels can always turn on them. They fallen angels, I don't understand why they would trust them. Trust them enough to do what they ask them to do. And then they turn around and turn on them.
Caught off guard by something like this. We would see the unexplained geopolitical or diplomatic moves, and we do see that. Shifts in government messaging, space and astronomical changes. It's all here. What's next?
knows how quality care can bring out a smile. But it's been a few dog-eared.
Welcome back to Woodward TV. I want you to imagine what a meteor storm might look like. A lot like being bombed by the enemy, falling, burning rocks. You see, the major problem with this is how much and for how long. How much are we going to have to endure it, and for how long are we going to have to endure it? You might notice increased construction activity in remote or militarized areas. They'll be disguised, of course, as infrastructure projects, mining operations, or defense projects. Most people won't see this happening because it would take place in locations that are out in the middle of nowhere. I can assure you that they would be well aware of you before you got close enough to see anything. Governments may suddenly impose restricted airspace or no-fly zones over certain regions if they need to, justified as military exercises or environmental concerns, but could actually cover the construction of some of these facilities. Now, one of the things we might be able to see are civil engineering companies reporting increases in government contracts for large-scale drilling and tunneling projects in mountainous regions or deep underground. New or hidden roads, tunnels, or railways could be built in areas where that type of infrastructure seems unnecessary. But the average person isn't going to notice this. That's not something many people walk around thinking about. They would be building these supply lines or evacuation routes to underground facilities. Military activity in sparsely populated areas could be a sign of preparations, especially when you have military convoys moving into isolated regions or the militarization of areas that were not important before. Along with that, we should see sudden, unexplained increases in defense budgets. And that could be used to build up and equip secret facilities without public knowledge. You know, it takes time to acclimate to an underground facility. You can't just move in without any physical, mental, or emotional conditioning. So, they would need a lot of time in advance to move people into those facilities, and some of these people might just disappear. High-ranking government officials, military officers.
Now, you can rest assured, Israel, that it will not be any of their people that they're going to move in there. High-ranked people, yeah. What, just everyday people off the streets? No. They're not going to try to save them. Why are they building their underground tunnels and bunkers and underground civilizations? To avoid what's getting ready to happen.
Scientific personnel, they might gradually disappear from public life. That kind of thing could be easily overlooked. Many of us don't know who these people would be exactly. Many of them you may have never heard of before. It's just the position they have or knowledge. Now, if governments begin to stockpile large quantities of food, water, medicine, and other essential supplies, then everyone would think, for what? How many of you are actually looking at what the military is stockpiling and the amount? Who is looking for large, secretive purchases of canned goods, freeze-dried food, water filtration systems, medical equipment? Who's looking to see if there are noticeable increases in the stockpiling of fuel, oil, or energy resources like nuclear materials or generators? Who's looking at research institutes and hospitals collecting more genetic samples or cryogenically storing embryos, seeds, or other biological materials? Not many people tracking these things, are there? What we might see are changes in government policies which...
Now, I'm sure, Israel, that they got stockpiles of food, water, ammunition, seeds, and everything else that we don't have. They got it. They're not going to be supposed to be down there and not have no food or water. We know that they're going to have that, Israel. Like I said, what for? Because they're trying to avoid what's getting ready to take place to them. And what they think we're going to go through, they don't want to go through it. So this is why all the elites and the celebrities are building the underground bunkers. While the army is building underground civilizations. That's probably more far in advance than what we're dealing with right now. Or what we have. Far advanced. Because they think they're going to be down there for years, months, longer than days, longer than weeks. So they got stockpiles of everything down there. So they can close their bunkers, close their caves, and let us have to deal with what's dealing with up here. But all it takes is the angels to flood them out. And that's going to be their cave. It's going to be their coffin.
It would allow them to have more frequent emergency preparedness drills that focus on disaster scenarios like meteor impacts, earthquakes, or nuclear fallout. These drills could be a cover for secretly practicing underground evacuations. There could be a sudden increase in government interest in asteroid monitoring programs, space observatory.
So why are you having all these tests, running all these tests and drills, if you don't plan on being in there for a long period of time? If you don't plan on being in there, period. Why Elon Musk and Bill Gates are building the underground bunkers? What are they trying to avoid? What do they know that we don't know? What do they know that's getting ready to happen? Civil war. We know that these tsunamis and hurricanes are taking place. What do they know, Israel? They're not or don't want to tell us. Because they're hiding something.
Or funding for space agencies. This might be publicly explained as efforts to improve planetary defense, but could indicate governments already know of incoming meteor threats. And they have clearly shown us this to be the case, but not too many people seem concerned about it. So people may write things like that off as more unnecessary space program spending.
Anyone with $10,000 or more in credit card debt or personal loans may qualify for help from National Debt Relief. Getting started is easy.
Executive orders or new laws may be passed to allow government agencies to act without transparency under the guise of national security.
Now, some people say that they're going to do a government shutdown. Some people say that they're going to do another shutdown. Some people say that they're going to have a war or civil war. Some people say Yellowstone is getting ready to erupt, knocking our power out. Some people say comets and asteroids are coming on the earth. Some people say that we're all going to destroy each other. Some people say that zombies is going to eat each other. Whatever the situation is, Israel, this is what they're trying to avoid. And they're not telling us. They're not going to tell us martial law is going to kick in and knock all the power out. They're not going to tell us that, Israel.
I think what would be likely is the reactivation of old war bunkers. If old war bunkers are being refurbished or reactivated, it could be a signal that governments are preparing for large-scale underground evacuations. Increased activity at known underground facilities like Cheyenne Mountain or Mount Weather might be noticed. The Denver airport maybe. You surely notice if security, surveillance, or restricted access around known government bunkers or underground research centers is heightened. When I mentioned scientific and technological developments, I meant any breakthroughs in subterranean construction, any breakthroughs in ventilation systems, hydroponics, any developments in waste management might indicate underground cities are being equipped for long-term habitation. And because of their climate change narrative, research in these areas could be ramped up under the guise of sustainability or preparing for a disaster. You might notice an increase in research into closed-loop ecosystems or self-sustaining environments like the ones designed for space colonies or undersea bases. This could be an effort to create underground ecosystems that can function independently from the surface. So they will always have plausible deniability as long as they can claim the technology will be used for things like space exploration, far away from you and me so no one can see. The media may be silent when it comes to this subject, or they may try to use misdirection, which seems to be their protocol for such things. Whenever unexplained meteor sightings or space anomalies occur, they might be dismissed as natural phenomena or unrelated. And the media is good at discrediting anyone who raises suspicions about underground preparations. And they'll use the classic label of conspiracy theory. At the same time, they'll promote narratives that minimize the likelihood of a catastrophic event while hiding their real plans. If they get desperate, they may try and orchestrate political or social distractions to divert attention. They could, and they do, create major domestic, sometimes international problems that draw the public's attention away from secret project activity. Geopolitical or diplomatic moves, shift in government messaging. But who's listening anyways? They can barely predict the weather. You know, I don't know what Florida did, but it doesn't look good. And that's an example of what more people are going to have to deal with as time goes on. And the result will be that barely anyone will come to help you. And I'm mostly talking about the government. How many years have they been doing this, and they still have awful solutions? My heart and prayers go out to the people who have had to endure this hurricane season. I am saddened by what many people have lost. The only other thing that I can think of when it comes to secret government hiding places, we know these places exist, and we know that many are military. I think people get curious when someone entertains the idea of a deep underground stadium-sized facility or something the size of a city. If they need to silence people, I'm sure they have, and I'm sure they will. Keeping someone silent seems to be well within their capabilities. If certain astronomical data, like observations from space telescopes or meteor monitoring systems, suddenly becomes restricted or difficult to access, it could indicate governments are hiding evidence of incoming threats. Researchers or amateur astronomers might be silenced or discredited if they try to get that information out there. If they suddenly need to have a series of satellite launches, especially for space observation or asteroid detection, that could suggest governments are monitoring space more closely for incoming threats. This would also be a sign that they may be aware of something imminent. And it's not like they haven't been saying anything about objects flying past Earth. I've been watching. They've been slowly feeding people a strategic narrative, one that is years in the making, so that people can think that what's happening is normal. And they knew not until the flood came and washed them all away. Anyway, that's going to be all for now, and there is more to come. I do have a recommended video for the day. Watch that video. It will be linked on the screen at the top right corner of this video and in the description box and pinned comment below. Please hit the thumbs up button on your way out. Check out my other